Hello, everybody. My name is Bill Galic, and I'll be walking you through our shortened semester study of violence in intimate partner and family relationships. From time to time, IPV, you'll notice that I'm going to say interpersonal violence instead of intimate partner violence. And the terms can be used interchangeably anyway, but I think the proper term is probably intimate partner violence and family relationship violence or family or domestic violence. There's a lot of discussion about the titles that we use, and I'm going to touch on that in our first class meeting because there are different implications about how we refer to this particular phenomenon. This is a shortened 11-week, 10 weeks, and 1 week break, that is, presentation of this material. In essence, the material that typically we would cover over a 16-week or 15-week semester, we're covering in 11 or 10 weeks over the summer. However, you have the advantage of this course being constructed as we go along, and so unlike other summer semester courses I've taught, we're not cramming a lot of already established material into it, so it may not be quite as overwhelming as it would be from time to time. My name is here. Again, it's Bill Galic, and you see my email addresses, both my alaska.edu address and my Comcast address. The university prefers that we use the edu email address to communicate with each other, but I can assure you that if you do write to me in a Comcast email, first of all, I'll see it more quickly because that I check several times a day, whereas my edu address sometimes may be a day or two in between the times when I actually access that platform. And the reason for that is it's just simpler for me. It's more direct for me to get to Comcast than it is to get to my university email. But you can write to me at either one. The phone numbers there, you see my cell number, which is an Alaska cell and also is text capable. But again, the university prefers that we not communicate with each other via text either. But if push comes to shove and you're in a hurry, you may be able to reach me that way. My other number is my landline. I still have a landline for different reasons. Actually, something we might talk about later in the semester because it's somewhat related to this topic. I live in northeastern Indiana, so as you see that the area code is different. And so one of the things to keep in mind when you're contacting me is that I am 4 hours ahead of you. I'm in Eastern time zone. So if you're working late at night, which I know students like to do, 11 or 12 at night, or sometimes students have to do, I should say, keep in mind that it is 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning here, so if you can delay calling me until the next day, that would be really good, or call me earlier in the evening at least. I have retired from field work as of 2014 after 40-some years in the field. I worked in a variety of different settings, including public assistance programs. I worked in child protection for several years, carrying a caseload in Florida, and also then worked in residential care and treatment of abused and neglected and behavior disordered children in Orlando for over 7 years. I left and went back to school to get my master's degree at that point. And after another year or so working in Orlando at the children's home, I and my 16-year-old son moved to Alaska in early 1987. And I went to work at the mental health center as an outpatient therapist in Kenai. After 7 or 8 years there, I went to work for the state of Alaska in what was then called the Division of Family and Youth Services, now the Office of Children's Services, where I supervised the child protection functions really all over the Kenai Peninsula for much of that time. Oh, in addition to that, I've been teaching for the university for over 30 years now. Most of those years it was as an adjunct, but in some semesters I was teaching 2 and 3 courses, so it was a pretty full part-time load. And about 3 years ago, I was appointed to the faculty as an assistant professor, late in my teaching career, I must say, and I'm still keeping very busy teaching. But overall, you see, I bring quite a broad background of social work experience to this course, and had a lot of opportunity to interact with children and adults dealing with violence in their intimate relationships. And so I think I'm pretty well prepared to present this course to you. And I think you're going to find there's a lot of information in here that is going to be very useful to you, sometimes difficult to cover and to contemplate, but nonetheless something that's very important for anyone in the social work career. We have 2 textbooks in this class. You probably already know this. Perhaps the primary text is the Freeze Newhill and Fusco Textbook Dynamics of Family and Intimate Partner Violence. I have to tell you, it's a book that I'm just becoming familiar with as we work through it together. And so I'm going to be a week or two ahead of you really in reading this book. So far, what I'm finding in this textbook, I really do like. And one of the things that I'm most impressed with this textbook is if you look at the end of each chapter, there are pages and pages and pages of references that were used in writing the chapter. So this, I think, tells you that this is a very research-focused professional textbook, and so I think you'll find a lot of good and useful information, and it's also quite current, having been published in 2020. The other text is Carol Ann Peterson's Interpersonal Aggression, again a very recent book, and I decided to use two textbooks in this class because there are areas that the Peterson text covers that the Freeze text does not, and vice versa. And I think the two of them together probably give you a better idea of the kinds of areas that we need to focus upon in this course of study. Interestingly, and I taught a course similar to this when I was teaching in the Kenai Peninsula campus in classroom setting. And then again, some years ago for the School of Social Work online as a 200 level course, and use different textbooks. I'll be drawing from these different texts, as a matter of fact, while we talk about this topic during the semester. But the interesting thing I will share with you is that it's very difficult to find textbooks on the topic of domestic violence and interpersonal violence that is really comprehensive in nature, I suppose. And it really took me quite a bit of time to find these two books, and I'm pretty pleased with the content of these two books together. If I were going to write a textbook in this topic, I would probably put these two books and combine many things in this together into one book, but I'm not writing textbooks these days. So these are the books you're going to be working out of. I think you're going to find each of them are pretty user-friendly, not full of a lot of technical jargon or anything like this, pretty easy reading. And I think you'll find just packed full of good information for you. There is a syllabus that is, well, you probably already have the syllabus. I emailed it out to you some time ago. I understand some people had some difficulty opening the syllabus, but hopefully that's been resolved. If you have not been able to access the syllabus, it is in the course. And when you look in the Blackboard course, you'll find a menu item called Syllabus, and there is a opportunity there to print out the Word version of the course syllabus, and I do encourage you to do that. You should always have a printed copy of your course syllabus handy. Among other things, even if your electricity goes down, your computer goes down, you have the assignments in that syllabus also week by week, so you can keep up with studies, or if you're away from your internet or whatever. And aside from that, it's just a good policy to always have a copy handy and to keep it afterwards, because there may be a time in future studies when you need to supply other schools with copies of your syllabi from your courses and that kind of thing. And so please do print this out. It is subject to revision, particularly because this is the first time I have put this particular class together. And so during the course of the semester, as time goes on and we make the necessary adjustments that need to be made, I may have to change some of the contents of this, or some of the strategies and plans in the syllabus. And if I do, I will notify you. I will post changes in Blackboard and also send you an email telling you about any changes that have been made. However, most of the changes that are made are going to be very minor, so nothing to worry about there. Be sure you know what's in the syllabus. This is really your responsibility to know these things, and that's one of the reasons why I'm choosing to walk you through it here as well. You'll see in the syllabus that the grading for this course is going to be relatively simple. Your points are going to be earned through participation and attendance. This is based upon your participation in the asynchronous activities that are in the course, the discussion boards and the journal entries and your group work and that kind of thing, as well as your attendance in our synchronous Zoom sessions most every week. And so that's 50 points there. There are going to be 9 discussion boards during the semester. You already have your first one in week 1 content. So that's 90 points for that. And I'll be telling you how to earn your points here in a moment. You'll have a journal 4 times during the semester, only 4, and that's a little different from the discussion boards. And in that this is a stacked course, this is one of the items that there will be some differences in expectations for my MSW students versus my BSW students. Likewise, for the research and written project, there will be some differences for the 2 groups of students as well. And that's spelled out in the syllabus, and I'll touch on this during this quick talk. You'll do a group paper, one paper produced by your group together. It's going to require you to, in this 10 weeks of study, or 11 weeks altogether, it's going to really require you to contact your group quickly and to get to work on the project relatively quickly, because you just don't have the time you do in a normal semester. Once the project is written, the written project is submitted, then your group is also going to do a presentation during the last some weeks of class as well. The grading scale for the course, I had changed this, and apparently I didn't save it, so let me just go ahead and do this right here. The grading scale is, you see here, there's total 450 points. It is based on 450 points total. I must not have saved my changes. And the scale is, very typical. If you need to know how many points, if you're not good at math, and there's this story out there that social workers aren't good at math. If you're not good at math, the syllabus tells you what the point range is for each letter grade. So you know basically how many points you have to have in order to get the grade that you want. And you also will know how you earn points in each of the elements. So first of all, participation and attendance. And again, I'm looking for you to be actively engaged in your Zoom session. One of the things that means is having your camera on. I really don't want to see black screens with your name across it. I like to have your camera on so that I know you're there with us. And I also want you to participate. Now, typically in my Zoom sessions, I turn the chat function off. And the reason for that is because I think it discourages people speaking up. If you have a question or you have a thought, speak up. That may mean if I am working through a PowerPoint presentation, which we'll be doing frequently, and sharing slides, you may have to just interrupt me because I can't see you if you're showing an interest in saying something. So I do want to see you participate and speak up in class as much as possible. It's something that's going to make the class much more interesting. First of all, because you don't want to sit and listen to me the whole time, and also because you have a lot of thoughts and ideas that I might not have. As for the discussion boards, you'll find that for those of you that haven't had a class with me before, I'll explain this to you. Every Sunday morning, typically, this week it was Monday because it was the start of classes on Monday, but every Sunday morning, a new learning unit is going to open up in Blackboard. And in that new learning unit will be your assignments and for the week. And there will also be, among those things, a discussion board prompt that is specifically dedicated to that week. And so the goal here is for you to respond to that discussion board with an original post after you've done the readings, and after, if there's any recorded lectures, which you may find from time to time like this, not every week, but every now and then, you listen to the recorded lecture, and then it's probably a good time after you've done the reading and everything to respond to that prompt. And your response should be a minimum of 150 words, your original post. That's not a lot. And I find that students usually want to write more than that, and I encourage you to do so. Once you've made your original response, and that should be made by the Sunday after it first appeared, as you see by this example here, then you go back within the next few days, find a few of your classmates' original posts, read them, and respond to what they said. Two responses, okay? And so that's not like I agree or I don't agree, but it should be something more substantial than that responds to what your classmates said. It actually kind of carries that discussion a little further. You don't have to write 150 words in each of your responses to your classmates' posts, although again you can, but that 150 word minimum is really for your original post. And so you should do that by the Thursday after the second Sunday. So you see, again, we're following along here in this example. And then the weekend after that is generally when I will do the grading on the discussion boards, after everybody has had an opportunity to submit their posts and responses. So it's going to be a couple weeks after the discussion board opens before you see a grade for that. So your original post of 150 word minimum plus 2 responses to classmates' post will earn you 10 points each week. This is a public post, by the way. That means that everybody in the class sees it. I see it. I will not participate in the discussions, generally speaking. I will from time to time make some comments based upon things that persons have said. I may respond to some of your posts, but I see this as a discussion between you and your classmates, not as something where you're talking to me about this. And so I do monitor all of them, even though if I'm not responding to what you said, I've read what you've posted, and sometimes I will respond to discussion boards. Your next grading elements will be your more or less biweekly journals. You'll see here there's weeks 3, 5, 8, and 10. Unlike the discussion boards, this is a post between you and me. The other students in the class aren't going to read what you write, and so this gives you an opportunity to perhaps be a little more direct about something you're thinking about, or to respond in a more personal way than you want to in the open classroom. Let your hair down a little bit, whatever it is in your post. But this is a private post that should really focus upon your personal reflections about the topics that we've covered in the weeks since the last journal. And really to make a comment more in depth as to the topic that we covered. So you get to pick the topic and to write a little more about it. If you're a BSW student, there should be a minimum of 250 words. If you're an MSW student, the minimum would be 350 words. This is one of those grading elements where I have different expectations. And also for MSW students, I want you to dig up at least one outside source from a professional source, a journal or some professional publication that relates to the topic that you're expanding upon, and with an APA citation to go along with it. BSW students are welcome to do that as well, but aren't required to do that, but MSW students should do that. So I will endeavor to respond personally to each of your journal posts. So this is something where you don't get notified when I make a response, but when you see a grade go into your grade center for the journal entry, that's a cue probably that I've responded, have a personal response to your post. And I'd encourage you to go back and read what I have to say. This is sort of my opportunity to do a little bit of individual teaching perhaps with you. There is an item in the course menu called Board and Journal Grading Guidelines, which spells out how you earn the points and how I determine what points you get for each of these, the discussion boards and the journals. And so I'd encourage you to take a look at that. There is a great example of a journal entry. Now, the difference with this journal entry that you're going to find in the instructions is that this is about a current event, not about a topic that that you're responding to in our studies. And so there's a difference there. So what I'd suggest you do is have a paragraph just briefly touching upon summarizing what the topic is that you want to respond to, and then respond with your reaction to that or whatever. So you'll see that in the course menu. The big ticket item for the semester is the term research project and presentation. And I'm going to assign you, this is a rather large class, and you'll probably have 4, possibly 5 students in a group, probably more like 4, to a particular topic related to domestic violence. And I have a list of several different topics. I haven't quite decided which ones I'm going to use yet, but I'm going to ask you to do more in-depth research in particular areas that aren't covered that much in the textbooks, both for you to learn more about that, as well as for you to present the results of your research and your study to your classmates so they learn from you as well. Your paper, the length of your paper is dependent upon whether you're a BSW or MSW student, and I'd refer you to the syllabus for that. I'll also have that in the, you'll find that in the course menu also under group project guidelines and instructions. These aren't visible to you yet because I haven't assigned the groups, but once I do that, you'll find that you have a Blackboard group work site for you, just to you and your fellow group members. And you'll also see a course menu item that gives you more specifics about how to go about getting the best grade possible in this project. Now, Group work can be challenging in the best of settings, and in an online environment, it may be even more challenging because you don't see each other face to face. But I am going to actually give you a week or two. I think what I'm going to do is set aside 1 week in the semester. I believe it's already on the syllabus, where you're, instead of having a class meeting with me, you're going to meet in your groups, and you'll have to set up your own Zoom meetings for that. And then at the end of some of the class meetings also, otherwise, I want to give you some time to get together in your groups. And this will be an opportunity for you to coordinate, make sure that each of you know what the other is doing in dividing up the topic, so to speak, and who's researching what, and to work through any issues that you're coming up with, as well as to begin to put your PowerPoint presentation together, and perhaps to practice that presentation. I've found in my own experience with classes that the more your group practices your presentation before you go into the class, the better your grade's going to be. So I'm not looking for an entertainment and stellar project that win you an Academy Award, just looking for a good solid presentation where information is imparted in a way that your classmates can learn from you and will give your classmates some ideas that maybe to ask you about some more information as well. So your paper will be 150 points. A presentation will be 80 points. There is a fair amount of writing about this in the syllabus, so you might want to look through that very carefully. And again, you'll find when the groups are assigned, you'll find some instructions in the course menu as well that will be very helpful to you here. I want to stress to you, it's very important for you to stay in touch with your group throughout the semester until your presentation is done and your paper is turned in, and to share contact information so that you can get a hold of each other. And also, it's very important for you to respond to your fellow group members if they contact you about something, and not to delay in doing that. There's a lot of anxiety set up when somebody in the group isn't participating fully. So I want to know that everybody's working together on this and working together well. As social workers, we have to be able to work in groups. You're going to be working in groups throughout your career, and use the skills that you need to use to get this group functioning effectively. When you open Blackboard, it opens to announcements. Whenever I post an announcement, that is a little bit like me saying to you, before we start class, I have something I want to tell you or to discuss with you. It's usually very important when I post an announcement. When I do post announcements, I will send you an email that will go to your university email address. But double check when Blackboard opens to be sure that you've seen the most recent announcements. I believe the most recent announcements should be opening on top each week. I think the most important link in the course is your weekly course content. When you click on that, you're going to see week by week the new material that is going to be presented to you, what you're going to be studying, what your assignments are. If I have any recorded lectures for you, you'll find them in there. You'll find your discussion board prompts. You'll find your entry into the journals, all those kinds of things. And so be sure that you get familiar with this particular course menu item. You'll see, right now you only see week 1. On next Sunday, week 2 will be there on top of week 1, and the following week, week 3 will open. And so they become visible as we reach the particular date when they're due to open. But the old weeks will stay open and available to you, but I just don't want to flood you with, what's coming at a time when we really need to focus upon what's going on right now. And I want to mention to you also, as far as your work goes, that the asynchronous part of this, the discussion boards and the journal entries and your group work, all those kinds of things. Well, the group work is something that's going to go on throughout the semester, but your discussion boards, your journal entries when they're posted, your reading assignments, any lectures you're supposed to listen to, you should do all of that within the week, each week, so that you don't fall behind, so that the flexibility you have in an online course, in maybe some correspondence courses, you have a couple months to get the work done. Here, you should be getting all your work done every week within the week, so that when the new week opens up, as much as you can, that is, so that when the new week opens up, you're ready to start a new set of work ahead. When you get into weekly course content, this is pretty much what you're going to see each week. If I'm on my toes and I have the time, I generally write, sometimes it's more substantial than others, an opening slide to kind of tell you a little bit about what's ahead in this particular learning unit, and maybe suggest some things that I want you to be thinking about as you work through this material. You'll see the learning objectives, your assignments, the recorded lectures, and this says 2 to 4 weekly recorded lectures, and that's not the case for this class. Probably won't see recorded lectures in most weeks, and when you do, there may be 1 or 2, just so you know that you don't have to worry about being flooded with recorded lectures here, because we have our Zoom meetings we'll be meeting in. Your journal link will be there. Also, I will have copies of all the slides, whether this from Zoom sessions or recorded lectures. If you want to look at them and print them out if you want to, whatever, that's okay too. And then generally a closing slide. So be sure that you click through all of the slides each week in each week's course content. By the way, that made some reference to tests, and there is no testing in this course this semester, so you don't need to worry about that. This is probably outdated anymore that we even talk about Netiquette, because I think most all of you are aware of the ins and the outs of communicating over the web. We rely upon body language so much when we communicate with each other: tone of voice, our eye contact, facial expressions, how we're sitting, how we're holding our arms and our legs, and those kinds of things. All of that gives different meaning to the words that we actually use when we're communicating with another person. And so the other person interprets all of that through that lens, those lenses. In an online environment, the only thing you have to communicate with pretty much is your word. And so things like sarcasm and humor a lot of times doesn't come through very well when you're typing in discussion board posts and those kinds of things. And in fact, can sometimes seem very offensive. And so I want to encourage you to keep that in mind. Be aware that there is always a live person on the other end of the communication that you have. If you're not used to online classes, and I know most of you are now since the last year in particular, but if you're not used to online classes, this is an adjustment that's important to be made. So please keep that in mind. Understand that other people at the other end of your communication are going to read what you write and react to it personally in one way or another. Also understand that our classes are made up of individuals from a whole broad array of backgrounds and experiences. Many of us belong to different groups that suffer from oppression. So we just need to be cautious and aware of that as we talk about important issues in our class. So this week in your discussion board, it's really an icebreaker activities. And I know that some of you know each other already. So if you do know each other, if you think you're familiar with most everybody in the class, find some different things that maybe you haven't introduced about yourself before. But many of you are new to each other and new to me. And so this is an opportunity for you to introduce yourself to me and to your classmates. Kind of what kinds of things do you like? Why are you here? What are the things that interest you? I bolded out one thing. What do you think you may have ahead of you in your career? Because it's something I'm really interested in knowing, where your interest lies in social work. Where'd you grow up? Those kinds of things. What do you want to learn in this class? Whatever you want to do with this, 150 words minimum or more. And then remember to go back in later on and respond to a couple of your classmates' posts and welcome your classmates as well. If you'd like to encourage a photograph, I'd encourage you to do that. It's not required by any means, but it's always a nice thing. It makes the post so much more interesting. We're going to introduce ourselves, I think, in class Thursday, but we're going to make it brief. And so this will be an opportunity really to kind of expand a little bit upon your introduction of self. And so, as I said, it's a short semester, and so we need to hit the ground running. You already have, I think, 3 chapters assigned to you, so I'd say get busy reading, and because there's going to be more coming in future weeks. And I appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to listen to this. Look through the syllabus. If you have questions about any of this, please bring them to class. I have some material prepared to present to you as sort of the opening, but if we don't get through my whole plan for the lecture, that I'll just carry that over into the next week, because I really want to focus upon making sure that we've introduced ourselves and I've answered any questions you might have about the course before we go into anything else. So with that in mind, I'll close this for now. And again, remind you that anytime you want to contact me, just keep in mind, again, I'm 4 hours ahead of you. My office hours, by the way, as you see in the syllabus, are Mondays, Alaska time, Mondays, 8 to 11 in the morning. But don't feel like you have to restrict yourself to reaching out to me then. It's really kind of a formality that I have that, because I make myself available whenever you want to reach me. Just please, again, keep the time difference in mind when you do reach out to me. Okay, thanks a lot, and I'll be talking with you again soon.